This is a screen which you're seeing. All right. So we were talking about X-ray diffraction in order to study some properties of the crystal. So what did we consider? We considered two parallel crystal planes, and we take the distance between these planes as the interplanar distance d. And then there are obviously these atoms which are on these planes. And then there is one X-ray. It is coming in this particular direction, QZ, hits at this atom, gets diffracted, goes in the direction of ZR. And then there is another ray coming here, which is actually going towards the second plane, which is at the bottom, hits this atom at B, diffracted. If you see, actually, the second ray, that is the one which has gone and hit at the bottom plane, has traveled more distance than the first one, which went just from this QZR direction. The first one traveled a shorter distance, while the second one traveled a longer distance. Now, so for that reason, what we are going to do is, from this atom Z, we draw a perpendicular to these two rays. That means this incident ray at the bottom, that is this direction PB, and the diffracted ray from the bottom, that is this direction BS. You draw two perpendiculars. Okay. The angle made by the perpendicular with respect to this distance, that is this interplanar distance. If this D, then obviously this also is D. The distance BZ is also D, the interplanar distance. So the angle made by the perpendicular with respect to D is theta. Okay. The same way on the other side also. Here also there is an angle theta. That is angle this BZC. Here also it is theta. Now, if I take sine theta, so this is a perpendicular drawn, so this is a right angle. So that means your hypotenuse is BZ, right? So if I take sine theta, I will get opposite side, that is AB divided by BZ is sine theta. AB by BZ is sine theta. But BZ is what I know, it is D. So AB by D is equal to sine theta, or you will get AB is equal to D sine this first term here. AB, distance AB is equal to D sine theta. Similarly, I take in this second portion, this second triangle here. So we have drawn a perpendicular here from Z to C. So that means this is 90 degree. Once again, BZ or D, the length D, that is your hypotenuse. And same here, there is an angle. The angle made by the perpendicular with respect to this BZ is theta. So if I do sine theta here, I again get opposite side BC divided by hypotenuse BZ. Sine theta is equal to BC by BZ. Again, you know what is BZ? BZ is equal to D. Or BC, you will get it as D sine theta. You can you will very easily get it. It's very simple. So BC is also D sine theta, another D sine theta. So AB, this dotted line AB, you got as D sine theta. This dotted line BC also you got as D sine theta. Now, what am I going to do? This dotted line, if I see, with respect to this perpendicular, if I see here, this is like a proper rectangle. That means this direction QZ and PA up to PA, it is all same distance. It's the same distance which the ray has traveled. The same way here, from C to S and Z to R, it is the same length or the same distance the X-ray is traveling. That means the extra distance, that is AB plus BC. I will call this as path difference between this first X-ray which hit the top plane and the path difference. Path difference is difference between two rays. Which are the two rays? One is the incident ray which has hit at the top of the plane, the incident ray which has hit at the bottom. The second one has traveled the extra distance. This is the extra distance, AB plus BC, which is like this kind of kite shape, this dotted line. Okay, so AB plus BC is the path difference. Now, what is going to happen in this case? Now, here you have a diffracted ray, Z to R. Here also you have a diffracted ray which has gone in the direction of S. These two diffracted rays will interfere. Interference. When two or more rays which are monochromatic, if they coincident, they can add up and result into a new wave, or it can get cancelled if they are having a phase angle difference of 90 degree. It becomes into nothing, so that is destructive interference. So constructive interference is what is going to happen. That means these diffracted rays which has gone out here after diffraction, these diffracted rays will interfere constructively, producing a new wave. Now I can, because X-rays are just like light, they have the dual property. I can imagine them as rays or waves, same. Both are similar. So the waves, X-rays as waves which has gone in the direction of zeta, and X-rays as waves which have gone in this direction of S, they both interfere constructively. Very important point, they interfere constructively. If they interfere constructively, then this is very important. You need to know, for constructive interference of waves, path difference, that is this extra distance traveled, is equal to an integral multiple of the wavelength of the X-ray. NPD is equal to n times lambda. An integral multiple of the wavelength. Integral multiple of the wavelength. Path difference is equal to n times lambda. Now, what was this path difference? That is AB plus BC. What is AB plus BC? You already know. D sin theta. AB is D sin theta. BC is also D sin theta. That means I get D sin theta plus D sin theta is equal to n lambda, or 2D sin theta is equal to n lambda. This expression is known as Bragg. This is known as Bragg's law for X-ray diffraction. Bragg, B-R-A-G-G. That's the name of a scientist. So this is Bragg's law for for X-ray diffraction in terms for the cases of crystal where the X-rays are incident on the atoms, and we will get this expression. What all we have this expression? Obviously, number 2, then the interplanar distance d, and then this angle theta. So this angle theta, that is the angle between the perpendicular drawn and the interplanar distance. We call it as glancing angle or angle of diffraction. Glancing angle or angle of diffraction. And then integral value, depending on how it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, depending on the interference. And then lambda, that is the wavelength of the X-rays. Now, that means if I know any two of these parameters, I can get the other parameter. That means if I know what is the wavelength of the incident X-ray, if I can find out this value of theta, the glancing angle, then I can find interplanar distance. So I can understand the property of the crystal if I know the interplanar distance. Interplanar distance is a very important factor. We have learned that in the previous classes. Okay, now what next? One important point I expected you will ask in the previous class, and nobody asked. Let me say this. Why do we use X-rays for diffraction in the case of crystals? Why not optical light? The normal diffraction, Young's double slit experiment, which you studied in your school, which you would have studied in your school, uses optical light. But here you are using X-ray. It's X-ray. The main reason is this. The wavelength of the X-rays are of the order of angstrom. What is 1 angstrom? 10 power minus 10 meters. So the wavelength of X-ray will be in 1 angstrom, the order of angstrom. The same way, this interplanar distance, D, is order of angstroms, 10 power minus 10 meter. If interplanar distance D is in 10 power minus 10 meter, then even lattice parameters ABC of the crystal structure, ABC, the sides, the lengths of the all 3 directions, that also is in angstrom or 10 power minus 10 meter. if you have to find out D, if you have to study D, if you have to study ABC, the lattice parameters, then obviously you need X-rays, which also have wavelength of the order of 10 power minus 10 meter. So this entire thing is known as Bragg's X-ray diffraction, and this formula 2D sine theta is equal to n lambda, or another way of saying n lambda is equal to 2D sine theta, is known as Bragg's law for X-ray diffraction. Now, moving on to one application of this, which you have to study, that is known as powder crystal method. So what I am going to do is, instead of taking a single crystal, I am going to consider polycrystalline. So in the first class, we talked about polycrystalline. So polycrystalline has multiple crystals. So I'm going to take powdered forms. That means multiple crystals I'm going to take together, and I am going to study the properties of that crystal. So with that, what I have done. So look at this one. So here at the center, there is a glass tube. There is a tube. Okay, because it is now powdered crystal, polycrystalline, I cannot keep it just like that. It has a powder, so I have to hold it somewhere. So for that reason, I take this particular tube, okay, and I put it inside the tube. The powder sample, powder crystals or polycrystalline are inside this tube. And then what do you have? You have actually this tube is inside a kind of cylindrical shaped stuff. This is a cylindrical shape. Right? Circular. So not circular, I'll say it as more cylindrical. Now, your X-rays are going to come through this one side of the cylinder, comes and falls on these powdered crystals, the polycrystalline. And what happens in the next stage is the diffraction. What was diffraction? The same thing as we studied here. They undergo diffraction. So these planes now in the powder crystal method, all these are actually for the powdered crystals, those powder small crystals. All the X-rays are going to come on fall on the different planes, on the different atoms, and this entire process of diffraction takes place. And if this entire process of diffraction takes place, that means obviously this Bragg's law, 2D sine theta is equal to n lambda, is applicable. It is satisfied. So X-rays come in, go directly towards this tube where you have the crystals, multiple crystals, and what happens? They're going to undergo X-ray diffraction. Bragg's law will be satisfied. And after that, obviously, what did we say? The diffracted X-rays come out here and do interference and everything, right? So the diffracted X-rays, from when they come out of this tube, they will go in a very conical shape. They go in a conical shape. They don't go just parallel. They don't go straight. They're coming from different parts because this is a powder crystal. There are multiple crystals, so it can come out from any direction. After constructive interference, the X-rays can come out from any direction. So because of that, overall, it forms a conical shape. Okay, it forms a conical shape. And they are going to fall where? They are going to fall on a photographic film. So this shaded region, what is actually this inside, you can see a shade here. There is a photographic film which is kept inside this cylinder. So the X-rays after diffraction, that means after constructive interference, they fall on the photographic film. How do they fall? They come in a very conical shape because it is coming from multiple crystals. And they fall on the photographic film. Okay, they fall on the photographic film. Now, if I take out the photographic film which is inside and expand it out, I will get it like this. This is how it looks like. Okay, I expand the photographic film, I get it like this. So I have a central point, and then all these arcs kind of structure, it will form. Wherever it has hit of the photographic film, it will form a arc. It will form a arc. Okay, but there will be obviously some X-rays which doesn't undergo diffraction. those fellows will exit out of this. So there is another, like how you have an entry point here, there is an exit, there's one exit point here. So if any X-rays are there which didn't get diffraction, no diffraction occurred for them, maybe a small percentage, those fellows will go out of this exit point. Okay. Now, what are we going to understand? If I have this photographic film, by some method, I can get this angle theta. Instead of theta, it will be 2 theta. 2 theta is the angle which I'm going to find out by some means. There is a way of measuring all those things. I will get the angle 2 theta. Okay. Now, if I know this angle, so this is like a cone, right? So there is an angle 2 theta. Then, if I know the radius of this cylinder, what is the radius of the cylinder? This is a cylinder. Obviously, this is a cylinder. So I know the radius of the cylinder, that is given by this letter R. And at what distance did this fellow fall finally on the film? I will take that distance as x. Okay. Then if I just apply angle is equal to arc by radius, right? Arc by radius. If I apply that formula, I will get 2 theta is equal to x, the distance at which the X-ray has fallen on the film, divided by the radius of the cylinder. Arc by radius, right? So the arc actually it is representing the distance at which the X-rays have fallen on this photographic film inside. So x divided by r will be 2 theta. That value will be radians. If I write it as 180 x by pi r, or else x by r into 180 by pi, if I do, I will get the value of 2 theta in degree. If I know 2 theta, obviously I can find theta. If I know theta and I also know the wavelength of the incident X-ray, I can find d. How do I find it? I have the formula 2d sine theta is equal to n lambda. So all you are getting from this particular experiment is 2 theta. That is the distance at which the X-rays have fallen on the photographic film inside, divided by the radius of the entire cylinder, x by r. That is in radians, that value will be in radian. I converted it into degree by multiplying by 180 by pi. So I just write in another form, 2 theta is equal to 180 x by pi into r. Now, if I find 2 theta, I can get theta. Obviously, take by 2, I will get theta. And if I know the wavelength of the incident X-ray, say some particular value in angstroms or 10 power minus 10 meter, then I can use Bragg's law 2d sine theta equal to n lambda. I will get interplanar distance d. Now this is about X-ray diffraction and its application. One of its application which you have to learn, that is the powder crystal method. Here you have powdered form of crystals, multiple crystals you have taken. X-rays fall on the crystals. Majority of them will undergo X-ray diffraction, like how you understand it here, and it get diffracted, and after constructive interference, those rays go in a conical shape and fall on a photographic film. Now, from the photographic film, obviously, if you expand, it looks like this. You will find out the angle 2 theta, then theta. Use the value of wavelength of X-rays, you will get d, that is the interplanar distance. Okay, so now moving on to a few numericals. Now, okay, let me just go back here. Why 2 theta? Okay, that's because of its conical. Okay, because it is conical, that is the reason. Okay. It's not low frequency, it's X-rays, high energy. X-rays are of the highest energy. E is equal to hc by lambda. If lambda is less of the order of angstrom, then obviously energy will be more. E is equal to hc by lambda. You know that formula. E is equal to hf, or E is equal to hc by lambda. Okay. I am moving on to the next. You just let me know if you can see this screen. Can you see that? Can you see that problems? Can you see the screen on problems? Okay, fine, cool. Okay. So there is an auto admit option. I am not sitting and doing admit here. And I don't think there is a class representative yet. I have not been informed anything by Ravit sir. There is an auto admit option. I don't have to sit and do. It's an auto admit. So whoever comes, they will be in. Okay, so moving on to the numericals. I need to go to full screen, else it will be difficult for you to understand. Starting with the first one, this is what we did in the previous class. So we will not talk much about this. I have just corrected that question. So you are given the intercepts A, B by 2 and 3C. And it's a simple cubic unit cell. You were to find the Miller indices. Now, what did we do? We took it in three directions, X, Y, Z, A, B by 2, 3C. And then we applied this condition for a simple cube unit cell. A is equal to B is equal to C. So your intercepts now become 1, 1 by 2, 3. Next step, take reciprocals. It becomes 1, reciprocal of 1, 2 is 1, reciprocal of 1 by 2 is 2, reciprocal of 3 is 1 by 3. LCM is 3. And then multiply all the values with LCM. You will get 3, 6, and 1. Put them all in brackets with some space. That is the Miller index. Moving on to the next question. So you can write down this question quickly. So you are being given nickel. I hope you know the element nickel. So nickel has FCC structure with lattice constant 3.52 angstrom. We are asked to calculate the interplanar spacing, that is the interplanar distance, for the plane 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, space 2, space 3 in bracket. Okay. So what are you being given? You are being given an element. You are being told that this particular fellow has FCC structure. FCC means face-centered cubic. That means it is a cubic system, right? And then, so cubic system means, as we told in the previous numerical, A is equal to B is equal to C. A is equal to B is equal to C. So for that reason, you are being given only one value, 3.52 angstrom. So your A is, or the side of the FCC is 3.52 angstrom. And then what you are asked, you are given 1, 2, 3 plane. Miller index is 1, 2, 3. That means HKL is 1, 2, 3. You have to find the interplanar distance. How do we do it? So let's write out. For FCC, A is equal to B is equal to C. Next step, this is our formula you need to remember for a cubic system. B is equal to A divided by square root of h square plus k square plus l square. You substitute all these things. HKL is 1, 2, 3. You substitute all this, you will get D as 0.94 angstrom. Can quickly write this. I'll move on to the next one. This was a pretty simple question. Value of A is 3.52 angstrom. And then you will get, so you'll substitute 3.52 angstrom divided by square root of h square is 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square. So 1 plus 4 plus 9, that means square root of 14. So 3.52 angstrom divided by square root of 14, you will end up getting this value 0.94 angstrom. Okay. Moving on to the next, similar question, but in a different way. This becomes a bit difficult to understand. Let's see. Copper, instead of nickel, we now have copper. Copper has FCC structure of atomic radius 0.1278 nanometer. That means in your previous case, it was lattice constant. Instead of lattice constant, you are now given atomic radius 0.1278 nanometer. You are again asked to find the interplanar spacing, calculate the interplanar spacing for which plane? 3 to 1. Instead of 1 to 3, it is now 3 to 1, the other way. How do we do this? I don't have A, right? In this case, it was pretty easy. It was mentioned lattice constant, and lattice constant is nothing but A for a cubic system. Okay. Now, how do I find A in this case? So for that, You need to remember this. This is what comes when we did that relation between A and R. For FCC, A is equal to 2 into square root. After that, R. A is equal to 2 root 2 into R. So I substitute the radius is 0.1278 nanometer. You should convert the units or put the units, then only it will work out. I will get the value this 3.615 angstrom. Okay, I can share the questions in the classroom, but not the answers. So you should try to understand how do we do this. If you are given atomic radius, it is very important to find out the lattice constant or the lattice parameter A. This is a cubic system. FCC is a cubic system. So A is equal to 2 root 2 into R. This formula you should remember. Substitute the radius. You will get A as 3.615 angstrom. And then it becomes easier like last time. You know the expression for D. D is equal to A divided by square root of h square plus k square plus l square. A divided by square root of h square plus k square plus l square. Again the same. Substitute for this A, 3.615 angstrom. And then square root of, what is your h now? H is 3, k is 2, and l is 1. So square root of 3 square plus 2 square plus 1 square. Once again the same. Square root of 14. So 3.615 angstrom divided by square root of 14, you will get the value 0.96 angstrom. 0.96 angstrom. This should be your final value. So is this clear? I'll just repeat again. In your question, it is mentioned that you are given an FCC structure with atomic radius 0.1278 nanometer. Okay. So of lattice constant, you are given the radius. So what you have to do first is use this relation between A and R and find A. Okay, find A. If you know A, if you find A, put the values of Miller indices 321 HKL 321, substitute everything, you will get the value of interplanar distance. The value is 0.96 angstrom. Moving on to another. Okay, this is going to be very, very easy. Let's see how do we understand this. A first order spectrum, I'm going to read it slow, you can write it down. A first order spectrum is formed when X-rays of wavelength 1.5 angstrom is incident on a crystal at 12 degree. Okay. Calculate the interplanar spacing of the crystal. Let me repeat the question. A first order spectrum is formed when X-rays of wavelength 1.5 angstrom is incident on a crystal at 12 degree. Calculate the interplanar spacing. So if you have, the moment you see X-rays of wavelength, that means that wavelength, the letter representing wavelength is lambda. So that means it has to be an expression which has lambda. So what is the expression? 2d sine theta is equal to n lambda, or the other way, n lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. So let's see what all we have. We have been given first order spectrum. So your value of n is equal to 1. We were saying, right? Integral multiple 1, 2, 3, 4. That is first order. N is equal to 1 is first order diffraction. N is equal to 2 is second order diffraction. N is equal to 3 is third order. Exactly similar to how you have in Young's double slit experiment, but the way it happens is different. So you are being given first order spectrum. So N is equal to 1. Then angle 12 degree. What is that angle? That is theta is equal to 12 degree. Wavelength of X-ray 1.5 angstrom. So lambda is equal to 1.5 angstrom. So I know n, I know theta, I know lambda. I need to find interplanar distance or interplanar spacing. That is the letter D. So you have Bragg's law. You should write here using Bragg's law. N lambda is equal to 2d sine theta, or the other way, 2d sine theta is equal to n lambda, whichever way you write. Substitute for all, and you will get D. You can do the calculations later. You can just write down the steps. you will get the value of D as 3.6 angstrom. 3.6 angstrom. Okay, 3.6 angstrom. So this was pretty easy. You were given a first order spectrum, that means n is equal to 1. It was being formed when X-rays of wavelength 1.5 angstrom, that means lambda 1.5 angstrom. It was incident on a crystal at 12 degree, that means angle of diffraction or glancing angle theta is 12 degree. You were to find the interplanar distance or interplanar spacing. D. Use Bragg's law, n lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. Substitute for everything and rearrange and do everything. You will get D is equal to 3.6 angstrom. Now, making it a bit difficult, that means until now you had either Bragg's law, or else if I go back, you used either all this expression D is equal to A by square root of h square plus k square plus L square, right? So either this one, either the expression for D in terms of your Miller indices, or else you use the expression in terms of Bragg's law, right? Now next one, yeah, we are going to mix it up. So you can write down the question. A monochromatic beam of wavelength 0.7 angstrom undergoes first order Bragg diffraction or reflection, both are similar, from the plane 302 of a cubic crystal at a glancing angle of 35 degree. Calculate the lattice constant. Okay, it might be difficult for you to write the entire question, I understand. So what you can do is take down word by word. A monochromatic X-ray beam of wavelength 0.7 angstrom. So you can write X-ray lambda 0.7 angstrom. First order diffraction, so n is equal to 1. First order diffraction, n is equal to 1. From the plane, so the plane given HKL, Miller indices 302. And next, very important point, it's a cubic crystal. And then glancing angle, or that is theta, is 35 degree. And you have to find the lattice constant, that is the letter A. How do we do it? First step is to, as I said now, write down everything. Lambda 0.7 angstrom, wavelength of X-ray 0.7 angstrom. First order diffraction, so n is equal to 1. Miller indices 302, that means HKL is 302. Angle 35 degree or theta is equal to 35 degree. What do we need to do? First, we need to consider this expression. D is equal to A divided by square root of h square plus k square plus L square. Okay. If you substitute all this, that means you don't have A now, right? You don't have the value of A. You have nowhere written the value of A. So A remains as it is, divided by square root of h square, that is 3 square, plus 0 square plus 2 square. So 9 plus 4 will be 13. So you will get D is equal to A by square root of 13. Okay. In the next one, you bring in Bragg's law. N lambda is equal to 2D sine theta. Right. Now you replace this D with A by square root of 13. You have to replace D with A by square root of 13. Substitute all other values. If you do that, you will get A as 2.2 angstrom. It becomes 2.2 angstrom. So I just repeated. You are given a monochromatic X-ray beam of wavelength 0.7 angstrom, that means lambda 0.7 angstrom. First order Bragg diffraction, that means n is equal to 1. Plane 302, that is HKL is 302. Angle 35 degrees, so it is 35 degree. This is a cubic crystal, so this is your expression for D. D is equal to A divided by square root of x square plus k square plus L square. And you have to find lattice constant A. Not an easy task, so what you have to do is use this expression first. D is equal to A by square root of x square plus k square plus L square. Substitute for HKL, that is 302. Substitute, you will get D is equal to A by square root of 13. Next, bring in Bragg's law, and lambda is equal to 2D sine theta. Instead of D, what you will do? You have to put A by square root of 13. A by square root of 13. So, it will be like L lambda is equal to 2A by square root of 13 into sine theta. Substitute all your other values from here, lambda, n, theta, everything. You will get the value of A as 2.2 angstrom. 2.2 angstrom. Can do the calculations later. As of now, just understand how to do. All right. Okay. Let me see if we can do this or this. Okay, there are two more to go. One more I think we can do. Monochromatic X-rays of wavelength 0.82 angstrom undergo. Let me just give me a second. Yes, you can use scientific calculator, not a problem. I'm just seeing if there is any problem here. You can do it later. You can do the calculations later. Okay. You can do the calculations later, not a problem. I'll share the questions in the classroom once again. So let's move to the next question. Monochromatic X-rays of wavelength 0.82 angstrom. So that means lambda 0.82 angstrom. Undergo first order Bragg reflection. So that means n is equal to 1. From a crystal of cubic lattice, that means cubic system. With lattice constant 3 angstrom, that means A is 3 angstrom. Oh, this is the problem. At a glancing angle of 7 degree, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. So obviously, if you have to use this kind of theta, you will need a scientific calculator. Glancing angle of 7 degree, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. Identify the possible planes which give rise to this reflection in terms of their Miller indices. So let me just list down what all are given. Monochromatic X-rays of wavelengths 0.82 angstrom, that means lambda is equal to 0.82 angstrom. First order Bragg diffraction, n is equal to 1. Cubic system, that means A is equal to B is equal to C. Lattice constant 3 angstrom, that means A is equal to 3 angstrom. Theta, that's a glancing angle, 7 degree, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. What is not given, or what I am being asked? You have been asked to find the Miller indices. What are the planes? What are the different planes which can produce this kind of diffraction in terms of their Miller indices? That means you have to find the value of HKL. So very different from what you have in the previous. So what we are going to do is you have lambda, you have n, you have theta. So if I have lambda, n and theta, I can find obviously D. How do I do that? I use Bragg's law. N lambda is equal to 2D sine theta. So what happens in the next step? I substitute for lambda, n is equal to 1, lambda is equal to 0.82 angstrom, theta is equal to 7 degree, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. You do that sine theta, everything. You will get D as 3 angstrom. 3 angstrom. Okay. So what do I have now? I have lattice constant 3 angstrom. That is A is equal to 3 angstrom. D is equal to 3 angstrom. That means it's a cubic system. And I can use this expression. D is equal to A by square root of x square plus k square plus l square. A by square root of x square plus k square plus l square. I have D 3 angstrom. A is also 3 angstrom. So what happens to square root of x square plus k square plus l square? That is A by D, 3 angstrom by 3 angstrom. That means 1. Square root of x square plus k square plus l square is 1. Then what are the values of HKL which can give me 1, right? That is the question. So if I take H1 and K0, L0, so square root of 1 square plus 0 square plus 0 square is 1. Square root of 0 square plus 1 square plus 0 square is also 1. Square root of 0 square plus 0 square plus 1 square is also 1. What about negative? You can even do negative. Square root of negative 1 the whole square plus 0 square is also 1. Square root of 0 square plus negative 1 the square plus 0 square is also 1. Square root of 0 square plus 0 square plus negative 1 square is also 1. That means these are the different planes or different HKL values which are possible. 1 0 0, 0 1 0, 0 0 1, bar 1 0 0. We don't write negative 1, we put a bar. See, in this one I have written properly bar 1. So bar 1 0 0, 0 bar 1 0, 0 0 bar 1. Okay, so I hope that's clear. I'll just summarize it quickly. I think we are almost done. So you are given that there are X-rays of wavelength 0.82 angstrom. Lambda is given. First order diffraction, that means n is equal to 1. Cubic system, so A is equal to B is equal to C. So for that reason, lattice function A is equal to 3 angstrom. Angle 7 degree, 51 minutes, 18 seconds. Not an easy task. You might have to use your scientific calculator or convert everything into degree and then do. Convert minute to degree, seconds to degree, and then you can add up and do. And then that is your theta. You have to find HKL. You have to find the value of HKL or the planes. So first thing you have to do is use Bragg's law. L lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. Find the value of d. You will get 3 angstrom. The next step is to use this expression for cubic system. D is equal to a by square root of h square plus k square plus l square. And substitute for a and d, you will get square root of h square plus k square plus l square is 3 angstrom by 3 angstrom, that is 1. Now, what are the values of HKL? That is basically the question. What are the values of HKL which can give this expression? That is square root of h square plus k square plus l square is equal to 1. So, all the 1 0 0 planes, that means 1 0 0, 0 1 0, 0 0 1, bar 1 0 0, 0 bar 1 0, and 0 0 bar 1. These are the different planes. It's a bit tricky question, but if you do, the basically point is this, you should remember Bragg's law, L lambda is equal to 2d sine theta, and this expression for cubic system, d is equal to a by square root of h square plus k square by l square. If you know these two, it is pretty easy. Get one, find the other one. It is like that. Okay. Now, I think we are almost at the end. These problems are not just based on Bragg's law, Ajay. It is based on Bragg's law and interplanar distance. There are two things which are coming into picture, and it is pretty